schools, graduating second in her class at the University of Illinois College of Law class of '76. In just 2 years, she gained national recognition as counsel for the Consumer Safety Defense Fund. 11 infants thought to have died from sudden infant death syndrome were actually the victims of knockoff teddy bears stuffed with old rags that still bore the remnants of an odorless but highly toxic cleaning solvent. Allison paved the way for the government to bring slam-dunk criminal charges against the top executives who had approved the cost-cutting scheme. Her tenacity had caught the eye of the United States attorney who promptly hired her. In 6 years, she'd never lost a case. After a 4-year stint in Washington as the youngest ever chief of the Justice Department's Public Integrity Section, she came home to Chicago and entered the world of real politics. At age 36, she won the hotly contested race for Cook County State Attorney with 60% of the vote. The female half of the electorate had clearly responded to her message that women were too often the victims of violent crime. Even her own pollsters, however, weren't sure whether male voters had been moved by the issues or by what her sexist opponent called the Princess Grace factor. The burdens of 3 years in office hadn't robbed her of the look, though her long blonde hair was now shoulder-length, and her big hazel eyes more often blinked with skepticism. She was a woman in transition, her mother had recently told her, from striking beauty to elegant self-assuredness. "Good night, darling," she said as she planted a kiss on Emily's forehead. She placed the transmitter for the electronic baby monitor on the dresser beside the crib. The small cordless receiver fit easily into the deep pocket of her terry-cloth robe. She switched on the volume. It was like eavesdropping on your own baby, a one-way wiretap of sorts that allowed worried parents to wander around the house or sleep in another room without missing a single coo or gurgle. Allison adjusted her receiver to clear the static, then switched off the Winnie the Pooh lamp on the dresser and headed for the master bedroom. The phone rang, striking panic. She snatched up the cordless telephone and ran to the guest bedroom at the other end of the house, far away from the sleeping angel for whom there would be hell to pay if she woke up now. "Hello?" she answered in a husky whisper. "Hi, it's Mitch." She sighed. Mitch O'Brien, her ex-fiancé. Their engagement had lasted 3 years until Allison finally admitted that her failure to set a wedding date wasn't mere procrastination. It had been nearly 8 months since their amicable breakup, but ever since he'd called 3 months ago to congratulate her on the adoption, he'd made a habit of calling every Monday night. Allison didn't mind, though when she told him she hoped they could remain friends, she didn't exactly mean best friends. "So, how's Little Miss America?" he asked. "That was last week. This week she's Best Actor." "You mean Best Actress?" "We'll see about that," she said coyly. A happy gurgle crackled over the baby monitor. Emily seemed to concur. Allison smiled. "Actually, she's so chatty lately I may groom her to replace Oprah in 2010. How's this for her first show? Michael Crichton and Martha Stewart jointly touting their delicious new cure for cancer." Mitch laughed, then changed the subject. He was soon fishing to see how things were going in the dating department. She did have a new significant other, though a long-distance relationship with a man who lived in New York hardly seemed significant compared to what was in the next room. Allison was tuning out, focusing instead on the happy sounds of her baby transmitted by the monitor. To all else, she was nearly oblivious. To Mitch's words, to the passage of time, to anything in the world that didn't revolve around Emily. The taker was getting interference. He'd been parked at the end of Royal Oak Court for over 90 minutes, where the radio signal had been strong and clear. A steady chorus of gurgles and sighs, followed by intermittent snorts.